Yeah, that's better. Huh?
Need that to be on because we're live streaming too. There's people who could not be here. Is that me? That's you? Yeah, because mine was working all morning, so it's not me. Um, a lot crammed into just a short period of time. So there's deciding what what pictures we would show and all that stuff was interesting. But I'm going to pray. But what I thought we would do is just take you through the trip, minus the any pictures from the airport. They're not entertaining. So, all right, I'm going to pray, and then we will get started. God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for just to be able to gather again. Thank you for allowing Nathan and I to go to Uganda and to experience the work that you're doing there. We ask that you bless our time together. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so we just most of you pretty much know how we got to Uganda, right? Like you heard the story, which led to it. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but Pastor Moses, or Reverend Moses, he's the guy in the plaid shirt there. He is the pastor of the big church that, do you remember the name of the church?
Gospel Messengers.
Yeah, that's the abbreviated form of it.
That's the one I'm going to share.
Yeah, Gospel Messengers. I I hope one day he can be in the States. I would love for him to share the things that God is doing in Uganda and how God has used this man. He is um, I don't know. He's 65, I think, and the Lord, just in his lifetime, the Lord has allowed him and used him to do just so much. When he, I don't have pictures of I didn't feel right taking pictures of where his father's buried, but they have kind of a gravestone, and his father is buried on the property of the church. He was, I don't know if he was the founding pastor, his dad was, but I know he was a long-term pastor there at the church.
Yeah.
And then Nathan, I'm looking at Nathan because Nathan has been to Uganda. This is the third time.
Yeah.
And has a relationship with people. So you can just jump in if I don't get something right, or if you feel like I need to, if there's something missing.
Okay.
But his story is important because he's the one who founded the Imani Youth Choir, and maybe you could share a little bit how, well, let me talk about the church first. So his dad, I believe, passed away, I think it was in 1984, and Moses was he was pastoring a rural church. I don't know exactly where, but it was just a small community. And after his dad passed away, he felt, he believed, like God had spoken to him, I don't know, not audibly, but just impressed upon his heart that he needed to come back to Uganda, where his father's church was. And at the time, his dad's church was, the church was hovering around 300 people. And so he showed up, pretty poor. I don't even know that he had, from what he told me, I don't know that he even had shoes to wear, and started pastoring the church. And he said, he told me, he said, you know how a prophet has no honor in his hometown? He said, well, that was true for me. So even members of it, like people didn't want to be at the church because they didn't really care for him as their pastor. And then even members of his own family left the church. And he said there was a Sunday where he showed up and there was nobody. But he was convinced that the Lord impressed upon him that God had called him to this church. So he just put his hand to the plow and continued and just was faithful over the years. And now the church averages around 700 people. And not only that, but I don't know how many, do you remember how many churches have been planted through this church? I mean...
No, but it's a lot, and it's not limited to Uganda. There are churches he planted in, I believe, Rwanda, Sudan,
Nigeria, I thought.
Nigeria, I believe. And all those churches were represented by the pastors from those countries who were at this conference.
Yeah. Yeah, so it spoke volumes to me because he's sharing this with me and this whole story, and just to be faithful to the calling that God has placed upon you, regardless of who's showing up and regardless of the forces that were trying to prevent that from happening. And so he's been there, and man, he is loved. He's loved by the community. He's obviously loved by the church that he serves as a pastor. He's one of a handful of pastors, but he is pretty much the main pastor. But he doesn't do all the preaching. And then he founded the youth choir. Can you share the story with the youth choir, or about the youth choir?
Yeah, so the best way, I have a hard time regurgitating stories that are told to me, but as I recall, he felt impressed on his heart by the Lord that the children in need, to start a school, and he didn't know how that would look like. So where that started, it started under a mango tree. And on our last trip, or the trip prior
The
to,
vision happened under a mango tree, right?
yeah,
That he had
yeah,
for reaching
that's how it
kids.
started,
Yeah.
where he started the schools for reaching these orphans and endangered children, and how the schools started under that mango tree. And in our last trip with Riley and Harley and I in April, we got to see where where that mango tree is. But so it grew from there, and soon it outgrew that little section under the mango tree, and eventually they I forget how it came to be, but they had this property that was gifted to them, um, that started out as the first school, one of 8 that would come over the years, um, and but that the school wasn't up to code per se, um, and so they I guess the government or the city said we're going to give you time because their scores were the best.
Their academic scores exceeded way beyond the academic scores of the regular schools surrounding the church. And so they had these classrooms set up on the church property, and because the problem was they didn't meet code, but the government was willing to give them a lot of grace because the scores were just amazing, and continue to be. Their academic scores continue to be that way. And a lot of these kids are like orphan kids whose dads walked out on their from the home. And then out of that came the youth choir that spends about 6 months now in the United States touring.
Yeah.
Months at least.
Yeah. At least 6 months, if not more.
Yeah. So I don't think we have a picture of the new building.
No.
So they moved the school from the church property, which is kind of like, just kind of run down a little bit, and to this top-notch, amazing, I don't know how many stories, 3 stories? It's
4.
Like 4 stories. God impressed it upon his heart that this was the school building needed to be built, and the money was supplied. I think it was like $3 million or maybe more just kind of came in.
In U.S. dollars.
In U.S. dollars. And oh my goodness, it is amazing. The building. We would go to the building to have lunch. That's where all the speakers would gather, and we would just. And I wish I took pictures of it. Next time, I have a feeling I'll be back. So it was, but it was pretty amazing. So this man, just listening to God's call upon your life, following His leading, obediently, without real hesitation, and just he's a man of faith, just profound faith. So that's Moses. And as you know, the youth choir came into Cheyenne, and they weren't scheduled to be here, but a church canceled, and so they really didn't have any place to stay, and that was when Thomas, 2 worship leaders ago, Thomas was hired just before that, and I think I got an email or a voicemail, and I just said, hey, is this something we can do? And that both Thomas and Hadley just made it work, and that's how the youth choir wound up staying. I think it was a week or 2 weeks here, but stayed here. That was how we met them, and I think that was providence, because I know it was providence, because if they had not come here, I never would have gone to Uganda for this trip. And so never would have met Moses, and Nathan never would have gone on two trips previous to this one. So anyway, so that's just kind of the background. So that's Moses, and then Todd is the guy in the green shirt. He was one of the keynote speakers, and then the gal sitting in between us. What is her English name? Jane?
No.
No, not Jane. I'm sorry. Anyway, she was great. She was great. Yeah, there's a lot of people we met, but Todd's a pastor in Ohio. He's a Pentecostal pastor. He did one of the talks that he gave was so good, and he exposited the word of what he was preaching on very well. And then, but in one of the sessions, he preaches with a handkerchief, and it was my last main session. I walked in and he's laying hands on people and they're being slain in the spirit and stuff, which is not my comfort zone. And so that's Todd, and we've become friends. And there are some other speakers that were there. So anyway, this is just before the conference started. We went and had lunch at one of the restaurants. And then we had an amazing group of interpreters or translators they're all from the church. They have a whole team of translators. I don't know how many. I want to say at least 5 or 10. And they rotate. And so their worship services are translated. If the person's speaking in
Uganda.
Yeah, Uganda, then somebody's translating it in English, and vice versa. If somebody's speaking in English, they're translating it into Uganda, which is the native tongue. And so these are the best. I mean, I've had interpreters like in other places, like in Burma. These guys and gals were top notch. So, and then the books. So, remember the suitcases. So that was the other thing. Like the Lord just His hand was in the whole thing. Even though we didn't get the suitcases on time, they came on time. Like they didn't come on time at my standards, but they trickled in. And I think I think this was on Monday. So some of the suitcases came in and with enough books to give to the pastors. This was during our breakout session for the pastors. And I'm on the picture on the right. The picture on the left, I didn't have dress clothes, so we went shopping. And Moses' administrative assistant, she took me to like this little hole-in-the-wall kind of place, and they picked out 2 outfits for me, and that's me wearing one of them. So, but yeah, so the books that I gave away, and I think I still have some copies in my office, but 1 book on expository preaching, 1 book on conversion. And if I could do it, I mean, I think I had everything that the Lord wanted me to have. Well, I know I had everything that the Lord wanted me to have. But if I could have had more books on conversion, explaining what conversion is and what it means to be born again, that would have been great. Because we gave away all the books. But during the pastor breakout session, there were men and women that were from different villages who served as a pastor or as in a group among other pastors in some setting. And there were pastors from just pretty much every place that there was a church plant. But some of the questions, like most of the breakout sessions were just questions, them asking questions. Like one question was, my husband does not believe in Jesus, and neither does my son. And if my husband dies, will there be grace for him to go to heaven? And that's from a female pastor that asked that question. A lot of these pastors have not had any formal training, hardly at all, and or even informal training. There's somebody who needed to speak on behalf of God in their communities or in their villages, and they're the ones that receive that responsibility. And so every time somebody asked a question, I would give them a book. And so if I felt like, I don't know that this person understands what it means to be born again, even though this person's a pastor, I would give them the book on conversion. And if it was somebody who did understand what it meant to be born again, but I could tell maybe didn't know a whole bunch about just constructing a sermon or whatever, I gave them the other book on expository preaching. And then these are the books, like the other stack of books, or the books that many of you have seen. And so, or I would give them one of these. And then at the end of the breakout sessions, or at the end of this breakout session, we made sure everybody got at least one book. And if anybody got a book because they asked a question, they were allowed to get another book. And so it was pretty wild. Do you have anything to say? Okay. And that's just some of the speakers speaking. So this is the guy on the right. His name is Brett. Brett is also a publisher, and so I don't know what will come of it. But the guy on the left, I think it's Brad, and the guy on the left, he has two books that were published through Brett's ministry, and Brett, I think, also served or continues to serve as a pastor. But the guy on the left had 1,000 of his books that he gave to everybody. Got a book, and there were over 1,000 people at this conference. But I was having lunch with all the other speakers, and I was talking about my Parallels book, and then one of the other speakers said, "Well, Brett is a publisher." And I'm like, "What?" So we started talking, and we carved out time, sat down, and I told him about my book and everything. And so he has a copy, a PDF of my book that he's, I guess, reading through right now. We'll see. We'll see what he thinks. Yeah. Do you want to do video? Yeah. I have some videos to show you too. Anytime you have any questions or whatever, just ask. I don't want it just to be me gabbing or Nathan. This is a breakout session with the men, and I have a video. Some of you have seen this on my Facebook page, but some of you have not, so I'm going to show it. Let's see. Men's breakout. So it gives you an idea how many men came to my breakout session. I don't know how many. It was like probably like 300 at least men that were at this breakout session. So kind of gives you a sense for. And those, again, that day, more of my suitcases came in. And so I had more books. So it was like perfect timing. It was just, when we needed more books came. And so there was a whole stack of them back there, the conversion book, the expository preaching book, and a lot more of the Stand Firm book that I put together. And yeah, so the question was it difficult to, somebody was interpreting for me to wait and pause and then me speak and then give that person no, I think after the first day I found a rhythm, and these translators, the guy both of those guys, there's two guys who translated for me at the men's breakout, and they would take turns. And then they would kind of riff, and they were like if they felt like they needed to say some things to the men, they would. There was one, I shared this while I was preaching, or one Sunday morning. One of the pastors, said that his son had ran away from home, and his son is 16 years old. And so I talked about just the importance of family and ministering to your family. And then the really tall pastor in the Hawaiian-looking shirt, he just started he's like, some of you guys, you're married to your church. You're in the office, all the time. You're meeting with people, but you have no time for your wife. You have no time for your children. And so that was that. That was eye-opening. The breakout sessions were really eye-opening for me. Let's see. I have some worship gathering. Oh, the giving. You want to see the giving video? Like on Sunday when we showed up, it was during the tithe and offering time, where they like had a goat on the stage, and they had bananas, and they had all kinds of stuff. It was amazing. It was amazing. So I got that. Somewhere up there is the goat. Every once in a while, he'd help himself to a banana. I don't know if he's... So during this, they're taking an offering. So those blue chairs, they wanted to replace the chairs that were old, some of them falling apart, with these blue chairs, which I think it was amounted to about $6.50 a chair in U.S. dollars. So they wanted to raise enough money to purchase 700 chairs, and so that's what they looked like. And it was I didn't know what they were saying, but man, it was phenomenal. And watching the people give, and so some of them just don't have money. They're just poor. And so some people would give money, but there's some people like, they had bananas, and somebody had a goat, and there were other items that were up there. And I thought, wow, how cool is that? And Moses, Pastor Moses had shared, we want people, if they can't give financially, we want them to be able to, give whatever is on their hearts. And so that there was a tarp there where all the food and stuff was placed, and my guess is that some of that was used to just help some of the pastors and stuff. But it was pretty amazing. You were there for that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I took that video.
Yeah. So pretty cool. This was the breakout session with the pastors. It kind of gives you an idea of how many people were in there. I don't know how many people can sit on the bottom floor, but probably 400, maybe 500. I don't know. So, and like I said, I would learn later that over 1,000 people were at this conference.
And that's one of the pastors also, Pastor Mike, but he's been going the longest out of everyone. Because Amani communicates through that church in Florida. I don't even remember the name of their church, but their office is there, and so they'll send all their merchandise that they take with them to when they tour. For those of you who are here, when the choir was here, all that merchandise is sent to their church first. And then if they run out, that church will send more.
Yeah. The white guy sitting in the chair, that's Mike.
Yeah.
He was also one of the speakers, and another Pentecostal pastor. And we spent quite a bit of time talking. And so he said to me, whenever you come through Florida, I would like to have you come and speak at the church that he pastors. And so that was the other thing about the trip, was just, yeah, theologically we didn't line up on every point. That's okay. And here we were here together to serve the people and to serve the pastors. And yeah, so his church even has an office set aside for Amani, and so they've been really influential in just helping Amani just have a place to, an office to kind of do their work. And I don't know if you remember, but it wasn't last Christmas, not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before, Amani was featured on a Christmas special.
Yeah.
On Disney.
Yeah,
Disney Christmas special on national TV. The youth choir was featured on that. So,
Yeah, and they're with, I don't know how many people here have seen Hamilton, but the guy who plays Aaron Burr, they performed with him, Leslie Odom Jr., to Little Drummer Boy.
yeah,
So you can see that on YouTube if that's something that interests you.
yeah, it was pretty amazing. And it sounds like the youth choir is going to be coming through Cheyenne again. It sounds that way. And so if they do, they'll be staying here, in the church during the week or two that they're, and they'll do a concert here again at Meadowbrook.
Yeah, last year they were doing the East Coast, just because as their name has gotten around, they've just been booked a lot more, which makes them a lot busier, making it a lot harder to tour across the whole United States. So they divided it by coast, or by half of the United States and the other.
Yeah. So as you know, I spoke 3 times, and that pretty much every speaker spoke about 3 times, 3 plenary sessions. So these pastors and church leaders that were there for the conference, it started at 7:45 in the morning, I think, and ended right around, I think it was like 3 o'clock or whatever. So they're there. They just want to learn and grow. And we didn't have to sit through all the speakers. So they've been doing this a while. It's the 31st year of this conference, and so they kind of got it nailed down. And so Nathan and I were not at the conference like all day long, but we were there for multiple sessions and breakout sessions. Spent a lot of time talking with people one-on-one. I told Roy Ma and the boys, said, I don't care if, it doesn't matter to me if I, speaking in front of that many people, I don't have to do that. I'm like, honestly, there's nothing in me that really is drawn to that. But I said, if I can spend a week with the pastors, just pick 10 to 15 or maybe 20 pastors, let's put us in a room together, and we'll pick a book in the Bible, and let me spend 4 to 6 hours a day with them. And I think I told my family, that's how I think I can help. I don't mind speaking. I felt very blessed to be able to do that. But to spend time with these men and just help them, and then to take whatever book we studied in the Bible, and then they can take that back to their villages. And so yeah. So this is the next building project for the church, through the church. They and Imani, they were like, well, we're doing a great job with grade school. And so one of the things that's really needed is a really good quality vocational school for after they get out of grade school. And so they've already started building. And they'll have a beauty salon kind of a school, a carpentry school, and they'll go through this school and they'll come out with a trade to be able to bring back to their communities. I thought, that's amazing. This is what it looks like to be missional. It's like, because they're using this as a bridge to bring the gospel to the people who probably would never even come to church. And so that was pretty cool. You looking for the...
What are the pictures of
This?
No, the other ones.
The ones you put up?
I guess they're not there.
Yeah. But I do have, so anyway, hold on. Hold on. All right.
They're not there.
They're not there, okay. We're missing some of the pictures. But I do have a video of the groundbreaking ceremony, where the groundbreaking ceremony was, and the youth choir we were waiting for everybody to show up, and so they decided to break out in a song. And they had me I'm not in there you won't see me dancing in there, but I was dancing with them. they had me come and join them. And so, sorry, but you're not missing much. um, like this is where the groundbreaking ceremony was. They had us be a part of the groundbreaking ceremony, so we're in there. I didn't know what to make of it. And us foreigners were the ones that were given hard hats. So, like, what are you trying to say? There we are in our garb. But I want to show you the video of the Amani Youth Choir just hanging out. Here we go. So, I thought this was fun. Like the joy with these kids is just amazing, and a number of them have been through so much, some pretty like heavy, horrible things, and so yeah, that was a lot of fun. They rotate.
Well,
Kids.
there's a lot in the choir, and it's not just limited to this location, which is Kampala. They have music programs, the other 7 schools. And so what they'll do is when they come on, choose who's on tour, they'll rotate kids from the choir so they can have that experience of being in the United States and getting to see the United States. And so they'll take them to do different fun activities, whether that's a water park or movies or all kinds of different things. But they'll get kids from different schools because the school here in Kampala was the first school, and it's much better off than the other ones. They're still building upon the foundation of the other schools, but it's more rural. Some of them are much more rural, and so they'll visit those schools. They'll go back, make several trips back and forth from Kampala to those different cities with those individual other schools, and they'll get those kids, choose a couple kids from various other schools, and then they'll bring them back so that they can experience touring the United States.
So just because I know some of you have heard this story, but I think it's a good story to share to kind of give you a sense for where some of these kids are coming from in the kind of environment. But when you were there, was it 2 trips ago?
The first one, yeah.
Was it the first one where you visited some people in one of the rural areas? And
Yeah.
can you share that story with the witch doctor and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in our first trip, so the northernmost school is called Lagutu, and that's just south of the border of South Sudan. And so it's atmosphere change because of the conflict and war that had happened. I don't know what years that took place, but there is a guy by the name of Joseph Kony who would do some really horrible things to the women, and like cutting off their breast and really horrible things, and they would take their children. Those children became the child soldiers, and they would grow up, and the kids in that school would be the children of those child soldiers. And so there's a lot of trauma, a lot of pain there. So we would, on our first trip, on my first trip there with Riley and Harley, um, we got to see some of the homes around that area. We did some home visits of families that Amani helps and sponsors, because they don't just um, take care of orphaned and endangered children. They also have a widows ministry, and they also take care of various different families across the country. And so we got to see a couple of those families. So the first family we went to was um, the husband wasn't home. It was just the wife and 4 children, if I remember correctly. And those children were, some of them were scared, the others were okay. But at first the wife was shy and not ready to say what was really going on, but you could see what was going on. And so eventually she opened up and told us that her husband is quite abusive and an alcoholic, and he would spend most of his days blowing off money on alcohol and coming back and being physically abusive. And she was really the sole provider, struggling to make ends meet. And that's just one of a bunch of other stories that have similar tones. And then the other family we visited was there's a mom and daughter. Her son-in-law had died. I don't remember how, but she was alone. But that mom was shunned by the community. And if you asked the community why or asked them why, they couldn't tell you. They don't know why. They're just shunned. So separated from their community. And so the daughter had kind of took on that same shunning. And she didn't have many opportunities. And so when asked what she could do to provide and what career she could go into or how she could make ends meet, she was told, well, your only opportunity is to become a witch doctor. And so there is a witch doctor who said, I can show you the ways to do that. But first, I need to use you. And so he raped her. And she got impregnated. And she was told by this guy, if you do anything to this baby or anything like that, I'll come for you because I've planted demons inside you. So that was hard. I didn't know what to do with that after that day. I just when we were in our hotels, I had to call my dad and parents and just kind of vent and unload, because that was something else.
Yeah.
But those are just some of the stories you hear. But in the time since our first time there and the second time, when we visited that school, there weren't many smiles. Versus what you saw, like what you see here, is mostly the same around the other schools except for the northernmost school. The northernmost school, in our first time there, it was a heavy atmosphere. There's a sadness there. But following in our second trip, you could see they started to smile more open to talking and opening up and being friendly. Um, so it's changing for the better. There's healing happening. It's just um, taking a lot of time to get to that point. And I'm sure the next time we go, it'll be even better.
Yeah. Yeah, it was neat when we were there. The kids, a whole bunch of kids recognized Nathan. So he was really popular with the kids. We every time we were where there were Monty kids, they're like, "Hey, Nathan!" And then he'd run up to him. He was surrounded by kids. So it was really cool. And some of the kids recognized me just from their time at Meadowbrook and just being here. And so really cool. But I think, I don't know, I mean, I'll open up for any questions you have, but like, I think my takeaway, well, one, I took Nathan with me just because he's familiar with Uganda, so it made sense. Two, I just really felt impressed that the Lord wanted him to come with me to help in any way possible, and he did. Like, he made sure the books were out. He made sure they were getting distributed to the pastors and church leaders, and at the same time, just him being there and the kids seeing him was just such an encouragement, to the kids, and not just the kids. A lot of the Imani staff and workers. They're like, in fact, they kind of like they look at Nathan as, this is like Uganda's his second home, and so yeah, they're really excited. But my takeaway, I think there's a bit of well, not I think, I know there's a larger purpose for me going, and it wasn't to speak in front of a large group of people. And somehow, some way, God has in His providence has allowed Meadowbrook to have a connection to Imani and to this church, and so I see this as there being a long-term relationship with them, and what they're doing is amazing, and they're making a difference, and on so many different levels. I think my part that I can play is probably with training pastors, and so I would like to go back. I don't know when, but I would like to go back. And when Reverend Moses, when he is, because he's super busy, so when he has time, we'll connect, and I'm sure we'll talk about what things look like moving forward. But I would not have been able to go if it weren't for you all, and so neither Nathan would not be able to go either. The support for us to go made everything a possibility, and so your prayers for us, your financial contribution was huge, and the impact of the books and the one-on-one conversations, I think those are the things that are going to go. That kind of impact will have the most lasting effect, not only just on myself and Nathan, but those that we're able to spend time with. So, anything for you?
In terms of takeaways?
Yeah, from the trip. Is there anything you want to share? Putting you on the spot.
I guess there is one takeaway specifically that wasn't as a consequence of the conference in itself, but of how I had grown detached from people and emotionally distant from people and not willing to open up to people. And so there was someone there that, a really good friend there, many good friends, but one in particular that I had hurt because I was just closed off and I just didn't feel any need to communicate why. And it showed me, I need to do a better job at being a better brother in Christ and not be so closed off to people. But that was the main thing that I took away from my trip.
Yeah, can I add a little context to that without getting personal?
Yes, yes.
Uh, I think like when, because Nathan grew up in a pastor's home, so he's seen a lot. But also, I think when he's wounded as a result of a relationship that didn't go the way that like a friendship that maybe like he was invested in, but that person maybe there was some kind of disconnect or whatever, or then the wound or the pain from that has caused you to shut down, right?
Yeah.
And so just from our conversation, that's what you're like this takeaway that you just mentioned was the Lord saying, you may be hurt and you may want to shut down, but that's not what He's called you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a cool moment. I mean, I remember that moment where you shared that with me, and that was a moment. Just it was neat, and it was so special just being able to serve in ministry with Nathan overseas. That was really cool. The last time we were overseas was in Burma, and he was, how old were you?
I don't know, like 7.
There's a picture of him holding a candle, and it was so hot in Burma that the candle was melted, like over. And Nathan was miserable there, like he hated it, and just because it was so hot, but but he lights up in Uganda, and so that was pretty cool, and that we got to do ministry together. So, any questions about anything? Yeah.
Three.
Sorry, I'm trying to find a photo to add context. Yeah, I can think of some things. I mean, maybe you probably can too. Um, oh, sorry. I don't know how to operate this thing. There we go. I would say this. This vocational technical school is huge. I mean, like, it looks huge, but I mean, the vision behind that is huge. So they're able to break ground because they have enough money to get started. And so, which is, I mean, it's amazing. So I think the vocational technical school, that they receive all the funds that they need to get to have that thing built. I mean, they're already started on it, and so that's we have pictures, but not on the slides. What we failed to take a picture of is there's there's this huge lot that the church pretty much owns now, or Armani owns, and they're already building one of those structures. The groundbreaking was for this building that was going to be built. My guess is this time next year, it will be standing, and maybe even functioning. So that is a huge thing that we can pray for.
Yeah, in our first trip, the main school was still being built, and so we got to see the scaffolding is made out of sticks, and there is no helmets or OSHA or anything like that. They're wearing Crocs while they're standing on scaffolding sticks with no harnesses. And they're welding on on the very top steel beams. So we saw the process, and getting to see this process is going to be really cool as well. But
Yeah, so that's a big one. I think just the reach of the ministry, these different. I think the villages and their need for pastors who have to learn how to study the Bible and to teach their people how to study the Bible. I think that's a huge need. That was like one of the takeaways for me, and so I think that's another prayer request. And then I think the work that Pastor Moses and his pastoral team are doing is just amazing.
On that note, education isn't free in Uganda. Eh, There, it's paid for by scraping money together from their parents, maybe even the single parent. Um, the purpose of Imani is to spread awareness and to gain sponsorships for the kids, because on their website is every kid who is enrolled throughout all of Uganda. Um, and they have, and when they come here, you'll see that trying to get everyone to get to sponsor them. So that's another thing to pray about is United States is in a position where they can, and not just United States, but they come to United States. So they're in a position to finance and help put these kids through school. And so that's one thing to pray for about is just uh, people to open their hearts to Uganda and the poverty they experience, so they can have a chance at at being successful beyond living day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts? Cool. Yeah, so just be. I guess the one other thing to pray is just wisdom. I do think that I'll wind up back there. Just the timing of that and when I should do that, and all that fun stuff. So I would like to do trips like this at least once a year. I think we're at a place in our church where I think we can do that now, and that's liberating. I've always wanted to have some kind of involvement in the training and equipping of other pastors, and so.
And if you want to know anyone else's experience in Uganda, you can.
Harley. Oh yeah, Harley's back there. She's been there a bunch of times too.
She's been there 3 times as well, so you can ask her about her time there as well.
Yeah.
Not with us, but I mean, 2 of the times I was with her. But.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pray, and then I'll hang out for a little bit if you want to talk one-on-one. But thanks for coming. Yeah, thank you for praying and supporting it. It was phenomenal. But yeah, I'll pray. God, thank you so much for this time together. Thank you for what you're doing globally, but specifically, Lord, thank you for what you're doing in Uganda. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Can you send this to me?
The what?
This whole presentation with the videos?
Yeah, I'll do it from my